I bring the meeting to order. I want to thank Mary Wright for taking over from me yesterday, or last meeting. She did an amazing job, and it was really good for me to watch somebody else, because usually when somebody else takes over for me, I'm not there to watch it. So it was really great to be able to watch somebody else handle the meeting so deftly. So thanks again, Mary, and hopefully she shows up and I can take her face to face. All right. We are going to move on to number 2, which is the acknowledgement of traditional territory. By the way, I don't have any regrets, so if what you see me is what you get them. I will keep an eye on regrets just in case anybody.
That's all she said. Dorothy said you should have been doing it.
Oh, she said, okay, great. So we do have regrets from Dorothy. Okay, let's go on to the acknowledgement of traditional territory.
The land upon which we work, live, and sustain ourselves is the ancestral and treaty lands of the Michizagig Anishinaabe, also known today as the Mississaugas of the Credit, the rightful caretakers and title holders of this land. We also recognize the rich pre-contact history and relationships, which include the Anishinaabe and the Ongwe Hongwe.
Since European contact, this land continues to be home to Indigenous and non-Indigenous peoples. As responsible community members, we value the diversity, dignity, and worth of all people.
Colonialism displaced and dispossessed Indigenous peoples of their ancestral land
and continues to deny their basic human rights, dignities, and freedoms.
We are committed to learning true history to reconcile, make reparations, and fulfill our treaty obligations to the original peoples and our collective responsibilities to the lands, water, animals, and each other for future generations.
That's great. And as the weather is turning and the land is becoming softer, it does present a nice opportunity for us to go out and ground ourselves, take off our socks and shoes when the weather is not so cold, and yeah, reconnect with that land that we settlers inhabit. All right. So the approval of the agenda, we are, as we did. Do I introduce the minor change? So the minor change is at 7.3. There is going to be a chance for some feedback, and we are going to get hard copies. So that's the only minor change to the agenda, but the agenda as it stands, would something like to move for approval of the agenda? Thank you. And we have a seconder? All right. So I have to thank her. Thank her lovely recorder. Thank you for helping us out with this tonight. Okay, so number 4 is the declaration of conflict of interest. Does anybody have conflict of interest? No. Number 5 is the approval of the minutes from the last meeting. Does anybody have any questions, comments, or concerns with regards to these minutes? Jennifer Knight.
Hi, yes, I'd asked a question and it didn't show up either in the minutes or the action items regarding the ONSIS reporting, and for the physical exceptionality that almost or close to 50% of the students, I believe, were in contained classrooms instead of in not in contained class. So I was like that to be added to the minutes and the action item list.
Through you, Chair, we did send an updated motion action log, Jennifer, and you'll see physical exceptionalities in contained classes with a response on it. Did you see that response?
I did not see an updated agenda.
Okay, so we'll make sure we have that updated, but I can provide you with a response during the motion action log motion if you would like.
That's great, thank you.
Thanks.
Okay, with that, would you like to move for approval of the minute?
Sure, sorry.
Sure.
Okay, Anne's gonna move and Jennifer's gonna second. Okay, wonderful. Move on to delegations or public questions. Do we have any? Yep. By the way, my voice seems a little strange. I have been sick for the whole month of February. And my voice came and went last week. So, but it's staying tonight. Number 7.1, the superintendent's oral report.
Thank you, and through you, Chair. Good evening, and thank you all for being with us here. I'm pleased to present a brief report on the many amazing things happening in our department, as well as an overview of our ongoing efforts to enhance the equity of access, experience, and outcomes for students with disabilities in collaboration with SEAC and members of our PDSB community. Firstly, I wanted to share with you the many wonderful events that are happening for PDSB's Neurodiversity Celebration Week happening on March 18th to 22nd. On our website, you will find information and resources to support you to strive to shine the light on our neurodivergent students. And thank you to Mark for displaying this as I'm speaking. On this website, there is a calendar, video links, and learning opportunities. We're sharing this with schools in a memo tomorrow and with the communication department with all families. Event experiences have been planned through Universal Design for Learning approach. The following information is to be shared with all of us about all the things that are happening. Shine the Light story time for primary, junior, and intermediate students. Shine the Light visual art showcase, which is appropriate for all. Aiden Lee, who was just passed there, is doing Art from the Heart. He's doing a virtual presentation and workshop. And I'm pleased to share that Aiden Lee is also working with some of our neurodivergent students to do art that will be proudly displayed in the halls of our Cecil department. We are looking at an entrepreneurship student fair, which is appropriate for all age groups. We have Michael Jacques Wednesday night for grade 6 plus in person or virtual. Michael Jacques is doing a virtual presentation for students focused in elementary school. And one for junior intermediates. And my favorite event of the week is a neurodivergent student and family dance event that's being held here at CBO in the main foyer, where students and families are invited to join together, have some snacks and be together. We invite all SEAC members to join us, and my assistant Pamela will be inviting you by sending you a link to this website with all of the opportunities for you to join. Secondly, each year, at this time, as all of you know, our board goes through the process of determining the number and distribution of special education contained programs. This is a thoughtful, data-driven, and student-centered process that centers on communication with families at the school level. Across the board, we have itinerant teachers and special education resource teachers that work directly in schools with families through all levels of the student review process. This helps the educators to deeply know all aspects of our learner's portrait and bring community voices and decision-making to the table. From these meetings, we determine the number of students who, firstly, are currently in contained programs that would benefit from returning to the mainstream, are currently in contained programs who would benefit from continued learning in the program, and currently in the mainstream and would benefit from contained programming. As a department, we then take on a significant amount of time to go through the data provided by families. We consider the input of people at this table through SEAC and determine what programs should continue, what programs can be closed, what programs should be converted, and what requests we will make to the director's offices for classes that we will need to open. We also must ensure fiscal responsibility in our decision-making. Integral to the process is ensuring that our most vulnerable students have access to differentiated supports and learning to promote academic achievement, build adaptive skills, and independence. SEAC members and many of you and families will share the need for a deep commitment to our most vulnerable learners. And in Cecil, we share that commitment. Late last week, we finished the process and will be communicating these decisions to families and schools in the upcoming weeks. Each board has the authority to determine what contained programs will be offered each year, and IPRC placement happens based on those decisions. Special education in Ontario shares that through the board's special education plan, each board must first acknowledge that a placement of student in a regular class is always the first option considered by IPRC. Outlines in ways in which students can be integrated into the regular classroom when the placement meets the student needs and is in accordance with the parents' preferences. and outline specific information about each type of placement provided at the elementary and secondary level. Based on the number of families seeking placement, we have prioritized the opening of primary transition programs and ASD junior and intermediate classes. I have a chart to share with you after that will outline the number of classes. Of note will be a change to our special education plan for enhanced learning in the 2024-2025 school year. The number of students with a demonstrated need for placement in primary enhanced learning classes continues to be very limited. We have also completed a jurisdictional review, and in order to align our appeal practice with other boards and in consideration of the very low numbers, we have made the thoughtful consideration and decision to not continue with placing students in primary grades 1 to 3 in contained programs. In order to ensure that students who are identified as gifted in grades 1 to 3 continue to have access to enriching and rigorous programming, we have committed to developing some supports through providing additional resources through a more robust ISALT program at all of our schools. This will be in combination with extensive supports from our social emotional learning team and our mental health team to address all aspects of a gifted student's portrait. This decision also aligns with our board assessment practices as an EGLI area general abilities test is completed for grade 4 students, therefore allowing equity of access to the program to all Peel students who meet the criteria, not just those whose families are able to obtain external private assessments. Most students currently in the primary program will continue as we will convert one primary to a primary junior program to ensure continuation of access to the contained programs for those students. Families directly impacted by this will be contacted by our special educational resource teacher for gifted programs, Richard Lyle. Please note that as I share this chart, you are receiving this information ahead of our scheduled communication with families. So we respectfully ask that this information remain confidential until schools and itinerant teachers have had a chance to share this. Principals have already been notified and received communication templates to share with families in the upcoming weeks. So I'm just going to hand this out and then go through the chart. So the context that we shared on the document is that what I shared already in my oral report. So in 2023, 2024, the total number of contained classes was 221. Our committee suggested one conversion from a junior enhanced to a primary junior enhanced learning class. We've had 46 closures, 35 communication classes, which we shared with you at our last SEAC meeting, 2 enhanced learning, 1 which is converting, 8 general learning disability, which is a part of our continued commitment to inclusion, and 1 deaf and hard of hearing class, based on students not needing to access the program any longer. We have opened 22 new contained programs and 18 withdrawal support programs. The 18 communication clusters, which are not considered contained because it does not happen for 50% of the day, 1 enhanced learning class, 5 primary transition program classes, 9 primary junior ASD classes, and 7 intermediate ASD classes and resource classes, for a total of 215 total contained classes. On the back of the document, we share some statistics around the planning for entries. As SEAC knows, planning for entries are completed by families new to the board for students who require a level of support to help with their safety and independence. You'll see from our numbers that the prioritization of the classes that we have selected really supports it by data, the number of students we've had complete planning for entry. In 2023, 2024, we've already had 1,021 students complete planning for entry forms, which is more than any of the years in the entire year, halfway through. I'm happy to answer any questions.
Anybody have a question?
Through you, Chair.
Okay.
So the total number of classes is ranging from 221 to 215, net of everything else.
Correct.
I was wondering how many parents you consulted with regarding the closing of the primary enhanced learning class.
So when we do parent consultations, it's done through the SRM review. So what we were looking at when we were making this decision was looking at the number of students currently seeking placement in the primary classes, which was very few number of students seeking placement, and making sure that we were again honoring our most vulnerable students in the decision-making process. So when we looked at the number of students seeking ASD or PTP placements, we had upwards of over 100 students seeking placement, whereas the number for seeking primary gifted, Jeff, sorry, what was the number for seeking?
Or which one? Sorry,
For primary enhanced.
We have one currently.
So one currently. So when we're making those decisions, those consultations happen in a data-driven way and through conversations with our search.
But what about the parents who are being told by your staff that there is no primary enhanced gifted class, that the program doesn't start until grade 4 or grade 5 or grade 6? What about those parents? So we're given misinformation by your staff, and that has been going on for years.
So I'm sorry for that misinformation, Barb, and if you bring.
Why aren't you doing something to correct that misinformation? Why are our IPRC committee members and staff directed not to give misinformation?
Through you, Chair. Certainly, if we're aware of IPRC members or staff that are sharing this information, we certainly would hold them accountable.
I've shared their names and they're still IPRC members.
Thank you for that information. Coordinating Principal Jeff Bertrand and I can talk about our next steps with that, making sure that we're aligned with our messaging and we're consistent in sharing that messaging. This information is only going out to principals tomorrow.
And is this a public meeting right now?
Yes, it is.
Available on the, so everybody who's watching knows about it.
Yes, absolutely.
Okay, thank you.
Our partnership with SEAC. Yes.
Go ahead.
Through you, Chair. So out of these 46 classes that are going to be closed, so how many students are being mainstreamed?
So thank you. And through you, Chair. Remember that 35 of the 46 are closure of the communication classes through which we're offering placements for every single one. So we're just moving it from a contained congregated program into a communication clusters where they're still receiving the same amount. So 35 of those classes, all those students will continue to have access to the level of tier 3 reading intervention that they require along in an integrated program. The general learning disabilities, the closure of those 8 classes, students are often moving into secondary schools, so they would have been supported through that model, and some will be returned to the mainstream. The one deaf hard of hearing, there were no students placed in that class, so we were able to accommodate for those needs in the other classes to make sure, because those classes are very, very important that we have access for students.
But just to kind of give a specific example, so I'm aware of a school near my place called Shelter Bay, which has a program called RISE program, which is an elementary autism class. Are those classes changing in any manner?
So through you, I'm going to ask the coordinating principal, Berla Jacket, to discuss that. Thank you.
Thank you. Through you, Chair. So if you look at the list of new classes, we are adding more autism classes. If there's one closing in a particular area, it's because there isn't as much need in that area and we're adjusting to another area. But for the most part, we're adding 5 more primary transition, which are autism programs for the youngest children, and 9 primary junior autism classes, and 7 intermediate autism classes. So we're adding a lot more across the board.
Okay, thank you.
Yes.
Anybody else? Right, Ray, would you like to move on? Oh, sorry.
Jesse.
Jazzy, sorry, Jazzy. Oh, and Jennifer, then Jennifer. Jazzy, go ahead. Oh, she put her hand down. Jennifer, do you have a question?
Oh, yeah. Sorry. I forgot to unmute myself, but Jennifer, go ahead and then I'll jump in after you.
Just wondering if for those of us online, we can get a copy of what you're handed out there today at some point soon. Like
yes, I will ask my assistant to send those out to those of you online that are in attendance. Remembering that it is very confidential information, so please don't share. Absolutely.
Thank you.
Jazzy, go ahead then.
Yeah, my apologies. I joined the call a bit late. Are there low vision like classes that are being shut down? Like how? Because I caught the ASD part and some of the other classes that are being mainstreamed. Are there low vision classes in Peel? Like are there students that have been separated and now going into mainstream?
Through you, Chair, no, there's not any changes to that.
So, but are there classes or they're not classes? Like
No,
are they?
we currently don't have any classes for low vision students. All of our students are integrated into the mainstream.
So this report, how does it impact low vision? If does it or does it not impact them?
No, it does not. There's no changes to our existing supports.
Okay, thanks.
Jennifer, you still have your hand up. Did you have something else?
Nope, just forgot to put it down, sorry.
Okay. I'm just trying to be aware of who's got their hand up. I'm kind of thrilled that a class for the deaf and hard of hearing is being closed. That means that, the infant hearing program is working and that it's, our kids who struggle are being supported in different ways and creating more creative ways in the mainstream, which I think is absolutely fabulous and tends to be the best place where they live.
And for you, Chair, I will say that the work of our HOH itinerants is exemplary and the level of service is exemplary. So we're incredibly privileged to have work alongside of amazing educators, and that's across all of our departments.
Amazing itinerant teachers, yes. Okay, so no more hands. Jazzy, would you like to move from her seat at that?
Yeah, sure. Thank you.
And Jennifer, would you like to second their seat?
Sure.
Fabulous. Thank you. Okay. 7.2 is the School Improvement and Equity Planning SIEP site.
For you, Chair, I'd like to ask Superintendent of Education responsible for SEAC and EQAO and math, Laura Chavarro, to present the report.
Good evening, and through you, Chair, thank you so much for the invitation, and thank you for having me share with you one of our most exciting and innovative projects that we started here in PDSB recently. Around August is when we actually started, and I do want to extend a sincere thank you for many of the folks who are here in the room who supported in the creation of the School Improvement and Equity Planning site. Folks' names are on the slide here. Many of them are in this room and some are not here, but they have been thanked many times for the great work. And of course, this is an innovative school improvement planning site that is very new to Peel. But it is grounded in change management. And currently we are making changes to the site to center and to include students with exceptionalities. So just a little bit of background about what the school improvement process is all about. The school improvement process is inherently connected with change management processes. It is research-based. It is part of ministry initiatives. It's referenced often in ministry initiatives and ministry directives. And it's also part of the process that we are currently engaging in to better understand the processes that schools are engaging in around improvement processes. What I'm about to share with you is how we are now currently embedding all of this focus to include and to center exceptional students within this process right from the onset. So SEAP is not something new to the board. We've been doing this over many, many years, and Superintendent Squicado was one of those who led the initiative in the field with schools. And what we have done right now is we have taken this process that is firmly embedded in current practices, but we've digitized it. And then what we've done is once we've digitized it, it becomes easier to monitor, easier to review, easier to augment, and easier to scale up and scale down across schools throughout the district. And here's why that is very important. It is our moral imperative to best understand how we're serving students, why we're servicing them, and to what degree we're servicing them. And with the SEAC process, we are able to there we go. We are able to identify who the students are, what their needs are, how to monitor them, and when to deliver processes to a high caliber, to high standards. And the SEAC process allows us that, and I'll give you a little peek about that in just a moment. Before I go into the actual process itself, it is very important to understand the size of our board, the number of students we serve, the number of IEPs that we currently have, and the number of exceptionalities. Having access to all this information in one digital tool to be able to be consistent, to be able to be coherent in extending professional learning, resources, items that require implementation in a school is necessary. This digitized school improvement plan allows us to do just that. The plan is divided into 4 steps. Very simple. Every single school in the board follows these 4 processes. Nothing is new about the process because it is part of the change of framework. You have your data, you explore your data, you interrogate your data, you set a goal, you monitor that goal through implementation processes, and then you sit back and reflect. Did it work? Did it not work? Why and why not? And then you repeat. It's a cycle. Within this cycle, we are able to center our students with exceptionalities to ensure that they are getting the best service possible. This is what the SEAC site looks like for our educators and our school teams using it. It's the same tool across every single school. Nothing's different. Everybody knows if we're on step 1, what step 1 means. We're all looking at our data. Step 2, we're setting a goal. Everybody knows what that means, what the process is all about, and how that unfolds. Our superintendents know, our administrators know, our educators know. Consistency ensures alignment. Every school in Peel has 2 goals. SEAC goal 1, which is around sense of belonging. Mental health, well-being, sense of belonging are pivotal with a focus on safety. Our schools, every single school in PDSB has a SEAC goal around sense of belonging with a focus on safety. For students with the exceptionalities, we've taken that to the next level and we are firmly embedding consent culture within it. Our students with exceptionalities need to know how it is that they can consent and what it is, what does it mean to be in a culture that is responsive, supportive, reflective, and in order to be able to ensure that they are feeling that sense of belonging in their school. What we have been able to do is provide resources for all of our educators to embed and explore that into their work. I had mentioned earlier that all of our schools have a sense of belonging goal. When we aggregated all the goals across 249 schools, we were able to extract the following words that were salient throughout the goals. Learning came up loud and clear. Within sense of belonging, we ensure that our students are feeling that sense of belonging so that they are able to learn, so that their learning is happening to high caliber and to high degree. Student voice, student identity, student success also came up loud and clear. This is evidence that shows us that we're all consistently focusing on similar goals across the district, firmly embedding students with exceptionalities within it. SEAC goal 2 is around achievement. Every school in PDSB has an achievement goal that focuses on both literacy and mathematics. For students with exceptionalities, we are hoping to embed communication within it. Communication is our comparable alternative programming support that mimics and aligns with language and mathematic expectations. By looking at our communication tool, our communication goal for students with exceptionalities, we're leaning on our alternative area domain document, the A4 document, that has alternative skills, which are identified into 5 different areas of learning: personal health, self-determination, communication skills, which I just mentioned, social skills, and functional academic skills. For the purpose of this semester, our focus currently is on communication skills. How are they monitored? How are they developed within an IEP? That is coming out to the system shortly. You are seeing this for the first time. We're still piloting this process, so there are many layers involved, but we are very proud to say that we're well on our way towards creating that. Just to give you a peek into what the content of the domains looks like in communication, this is very brief overview for early levels of communication and for our later level of communication. They will be on a continuum. Our students will start in whatever place they are, and we will be able to monitor through this digital tool how they're progressing, their timelines for progressing, and what evidence that is being collected to ensure that they are progressing to their best capacity and to their best caliber. We've also launched a part of our SEAC that is related to our EQAO goals. Now, what we have done is we understand that many of our students who are on IEPs are performing on EQAO to a variety of different levels. We wanted to ensure that they also have the support necessary to be able to demonstrate their learning to high caliber on this high stakes, large scale assessment. What we have been able to do is we have been able to create a pilot EQAO site that feeds into the SEAC site for data, where we are able to track students with IEPs, how they're performing on questions related to EQAO that are very similar to the ones presented on the assessment. We gather their data, identify their needs, teach to their needs so that they are best prepared for when they are writing EQAO or OSSLT. Embedded in this tool are a variety of accommodation tools as well, so that students who are unable to read fluently, they are able to still access the questions because they are being read to them. This is an accommodation tool that is available to all students on EQAO and OSSLT to some degree. Some of our students know how to use it, others do not. What we're doing with this pilot tool is to offer them opportunities to practice so that when the time comes for them to actually do write the real EQAO, as they call it, they're able to do it to the highest degree possible. So these accommodation tools are firmly embedded within this tool. Hopefully they are using it, and we do know that students are using it. Here is our data that's telling us how many students are using what tools with specific questions that we have piloted so far. So from this data, we can say that our teachers are sharing the accommodation tools with all of our students, and our students are utilizing these accommodation tools to support them in responding to questions that will come up on our large-scale assessments. Our next steps at this point in time is to take a close look at our IEPs and ensure that we have monitoring tools embedded within each of our IEP processes to determine goal acquisition and timelines and the strategies that are being used that are attached to every goal that is embedded within the IEPs that our educators create. That is our next step. And I look forward to sharing that with you when it's created. I'm open to questions.
Are we going to questions now?
Yes.
Okay. Does anybody have a question? Nicole? Oh, sorry.
It's like Jazzy.
Jazzy?
Hi, the goal setting and the action planning, because what you're doing is you're digitizing the IEP and creating transparency between the schools and the folks at the board. And you mentioned like there was a goal setting slide and action setting slide. How much of that is catered to the specific exceptionality like vision or hearing, like, or are those like generic goals that, you know, are like a one size fit all for exceptionalities? Because I guess I'm wondering, like, when it comes to vision students, there are specific goals to feel included, and there's specific things they need and support they need. And so my question really is like, how much of that is related specifically to their specific need?
Thank you for that question, and through you, Chair. Right now, what we're doing is we're really focusing on consent culture to build sense of belonging with our students. For in terms of goal 2, the goal setting is around communication. We're trying to be very focused and deliberate in what we're doing to practice and pilot the process and then scale up. So at this point in time, it's very much focused on consent culture through sense of belonging, as well as the communication pages that align with language and achievement.
And through you, Chair, if I can just add to your question, Jazzy, that school-based SEAC goals are generally more widespread in general, but very often teachers have specific classroom-based goals that feed into the larger goal and individual structures or strategies that they're working on. So it would be our hope that the classroom-based goal would really have a deep understanding of all the individual portraits of the student who they're serving, and that would be reflected in that way. And, you know, kind of pointing out in Superintendent Chavarro's presentation as well, that this has really increased accessibility. So you'll notice that one of the accessibility tools was zoom in, zoom out, and contrast, or reading the speech, which really acknowledges some of the concerns that you're talking about. So we've been very thoughtful in making sure that we increase accessibility for students, knowing that they're all competent and capable when given the right tools. Thank you.
Thank you. And just one more question, sorry if I could. That sense of belonging, like how much of the material on there is supporting the schools in creating or helping create tactics and strategies and thought leadership around how to like, for example, my son is, you know, visually impaired, doesn't really have a whole lot of visually impaired books at the library or folks that come to the assembly. How much of that is creating a sense of a sense of community and belonging? Like how much of that is like directional to the school so that they know different strategies and tactics that they could implement in the school to help kind of support that child feel included?
Through you, Chair, that would be work that we hope that our itinerants are doing in advocating to classroom teachers and principals of students that are blind, low vision. So we would hope that that work and advocacy was done through the itinerants to sharing best practices, resources, and certainly we understand that a sense of belonging does lead to academic success and well-being. So we would hope that our itinerants would be sharing those resources that we share centrally. If that's not happening, I'm happy to have a conversation with you offline.
Okay, thank you.
Kevin, you're next. Oh, your microphone's off. You need to unmute yourself. We see you, but we can't hear you. Oh,
Okay, can you hear me now?
yes, we can.
Okay, perfect. Sorry, I can't be there in person tonight. I just have a few things on this. The first one would be, it would be great to see some form of analytics built into the system to encourage best practice sharing in the future, so that, you know, there's a consistency across the board, so that the accommodations that work well can be shared between the different areas. The next is consent. When we talk about the consent, what it wasn't clear to me there is, what does that mean to the students? Because if you were to ask 20 different students what consent means to them at different ages, you're going to get 20 different answers. So I was just curious, how does that work in practice? Other question is, in terms of the data and the research, what is the research basis for the indicators? Is it peer-reviewed research? I'm just asking because I don't know. I didn't see it there. And in terms of the indicators themselves, I mean, higher educators trained to use that system so that when they assign a value, is it, what does that mean? Is it going to be the same for different educators? And then how do the itinerant teachers and even the educational assistants fit into this process? Because, we all know, the result, the information is only as good as the data that goes in. So, how is that being taken care of to make sure that the system, will be easy to use, but also it'll be valuable in terms of the information that comes out of it. Does that all make sense? Sorry, I know that was a lot in one go.
Through your chair, I made copious notes just to make sure, and so did our associate director. So thank you for those questions. Yes, the site is built for the analytical process. So yes, in the background, we have all the analytics. We're running that at the in the back end. So what the word cloud that was just shown, that is one piece of analytics that we have. So we are able to say how many schools created which goals for what purpose and for what timelines. And that is clearly communicated across the system, alignment across the system. In terms of best practices, those are also shared. And so we know which schools are using what strategies for what purpose. And if we're seeing evidence, we scale up and share. That collaborative effort is constantly happening for sure. In terms of research-based indicators, we are using key performance indicators that have been given to us by the Ministry of Education. Those are research-based, and those are always measuring pre and post. So here's where we are at this point in time. Here are the strategies that are high impact instructional practices, also research-based, leveraged through the Ministry of Education. And then this is the post assessment that's happening. And we are measuring at all points in time to ensure that there is success and change over time. Because if it doesn't work, we have to reflect, stop, start the cycle again. So this is happening on an ongoing basis, 6-week cycles throughout the process. And it is aligned from superintendents all the way to classroom instruction. So our itinerants, your question was about itinerants and how do they know? The SEAC site is available to all of our educators, and they have access through their administrators what the school goal is, what the research-based strategies, and how the indicator of success needs to look like. So those are all clearly articulated across the system. I hope I answered your questions. Oh, and consent culture. Sorry, thank you. That's why it's easier. The consent culture for the purpose of students with exceptionalities, it's a modified lesson that we have taken from Ministry of Mental Health and Wellbeing. We have taken the lessons that we give to all of our students. We've been able to modify it, and it is delivered over the course of the year. So basically what we're trying to do is help build understanding of boundaries, safety, raising awareness of early signs where intervention is required. So these are the key strategies that we're hoping to instruct and students will learn, and we are able to measure impact of those types of learning for our students. Hopefully that answered your question.
It does, yes. Thank you.
Great.
Thank you, and through you, Chair. So when the teachers are working on the IEP through the system, so does it work like a linear system whereby they say the teacher prepares something and sends it on to itinerant, and itinerant sends it on to principal and to the board? Or is it more like something like a parallel system where different people can contribute to the same project, so as to say, which is in this case the IEP? How does it work as a process-wise?
Through you, Chair, I can take that question, Ray. when we're developing IEPs, we really want ownership of the individual education plan to land with the classroom teacher. They are the person who was with the student all day and responsible for the instructional accommodations, assessment modifications, and setting the goals and expectations. But it is done through a very collaborative process. So we've revamped our student review meeting to include, the co-creation of IEPs that really center parent and family voice, and really focus on having high expectation for learners. So we would want it to be done collaboratively. If the student is supported by an itinerant, then certainly they would be there as a part of the team, the more comprehensive team, to look at, to Kevin's point, not only high yield instructional strategies, but assessment and triggers, and looking at performance indicators to make sure that students are meeting those goals. So that's something that we do throughout the process. And again, there is an IP review, as you know, at the end of every semester, to make sure that students are meeting them. And if they are, we set new goals, or we revamp goals and keep the same goals if they haven't been met, and reconsider instructional strategies, but that can be done at any point throughout the year.
Okay, yeah, so thank you. So that means that others will be able to collaborate with the class teacher while the ownership remains with the class teacher.
100%, yes. Yeah, they should be collaborating, yeah. Sarah?
Yes, I'm wondering if we can get a copy of that presentation, because it doesn't seem to relate to the document that we received in our agenda, other than the title.
Absolutely, we can make that available.
Thank you.
Anybody else have any questions? Kevin, would you like to move for receipt of that?
Yes, go ahead. I can do that.
And Ray, would you like to second? Fabulous. Thank you. Thank you. Oh my goodness. Laura Chamberlain? Tomorrow, sorry, tomorrow. That. For that report, we appreciate coming to share with us. Thank you, sir. Thank you. Blush because I can't say people's names. We're going to move on to 7.3, which is where we've got these dandy things. And for those of you online, it was sent via email.
Yes.
At around 5-ish. So if you want to look up, get your PDF around 5, but there will be other chances to provide input, but we're going to do 7.3. SEAC consultation, assessment, evaluation, and reporting policy.
Through you, Chair, I'd like to ask Superintendent Hoppy and Coordinating Principal Cookop to please present this report.
Thank you, and through you, Chair, I'm proud to introduce Coordinating Principal, Coordinating Principal Sumble Cookop to introduce and discuss our policy on assessment and evaluation.
Thank you and good evening. My name is Sumble Cookop, and I'm the Coordinating Principal for Secondary Education in Curriculum, Instruction, and Assessment. I'm pleased to be here tonight to be able to facilitate a consultation of our draft policy for the assessment and evaluation reporting. Tonight, we are seeking feedback on the draft assessment evaluation reporting policy. The external consultation on this draft policy started with the Curriculum Equity and Student Wellbeing Committee on February 13th. And last week, we consulted with the Parent Involvement Committee on February 22nd. We will continue to engage members of the PDSB community until the end of March via public consultation that's available on our website, effective March 1st. And throughout this time period, members of the PDSB community can provide feedback via survey on our public field website. This survey will be going live shortly in a few days around March 1st. These policies will continue to be revised as we work our way through the various consultation processes. It is envisioned that the policies will be brought forward for approval to the Board of Trustees later this spring. The assessment, evaluation, and reporting policy outlines the expectations for the practices of teachers and administrators in the assessment, evaluation, and reporting of student learning and achievement in the Peel District School Board. The policy is informed by the provincial policy for assessment, evaluation, and reporting required in Growing Success 2010, Growing Success, the Kindergarten Addendum 2016, and other provincial ministry documents. This policy is also informed by an environmental scan. This policy is intended to ensure that assessment, evaluation, and reporting practices are fair, transparent, and equitable through the disruption of anti-Black racism, anti-Indigenous racism, colonialism, and systemic oppression. Highlights are on the slide in front of you. This policy outlines the board's values regarding assessment and evaluation reporting with a focus on honoring student identities and addressing educator bias. It ensures that equitable assessment practices are implemented consistently across Peel schools. It centers the identity and well-being of all learners in the assessment, evaluation, reporting process. It reiterates the need for an asset-based approach to assessment, evaluation, and reporting. It includes using students' demonstrated evidence of achievement, and the policy also defines roles and responsibilities. I'd like to highlight that today we are presenting a draft policy. Just wanted to take a moment to distinguish between the policies and procedures. Policies represent the written statements that create the framework that governs the administration and operation of the Peel District School Board. It is through policy that the board informs the public, the administration, and staff of its priorities and intent. Policy is very different from procedures, though all policies require procedures to enact the policy. Procedures are the written statements that explain the details of how policies are to be implemented. They provide the steps, instructions, or methods that need to be taken to implement and achieve policy goals. We have a committee currently drafting the elementary and secondary assessment, evaluation, reporting procedures in alignment with the policy. These operating procedures will outline how the policy will be implemented in relation to assessment practices, such as determining a grade or a mark on a report card, absence of evidence, academic honesty, and final evaluations, assessment for English language learners and students with special education needs, assessment evaluation practices for programs with alternative expectations, and guidance on accommodations and modifications for neurodiverse learners. Tonight, I bring 4 questions that I wish to use as a frame to gather some feedback. I will run to be consistent with the consultation that I've done at other committees. I'm going to run through these questions and open the floor for feedback in a sequential manner. And I'm here to listen and take down the notes that I could take back to the committee to consider the feedback that you may offer tonight on our draft policy. And so we'll just address them one by one through you, Chair. And if anyone has any feedback beyond the questions that were written on the screen, I'm happy to take note of that at the end of the 4 questions. You'll notice that the 4th question asks for any consideration for the assessment, evaluation, reporting policy that we should consider for implementation. The first 3 questions ask you to refer to the document specifically. Knowing that you just received this document this evening, I'd like to just give you a few minutes to read over the document, bringing specific attention to the multiple sections in this 11-page document, really asking you to focus on section 4 of the policy, which states the policy values and guiding principles, knowing that the beginning pages include definitions to help understand the components of the policy, and ends with roles and responsibilities, which just delineate the pieces in the center of the policy in relation to those who are responsible for implementation. I'm going to stop talking and give everyone just a few minutes to look specifically at page 5, 6, and 7, where we have the guiding principles and values under policy.
And through you, Chair, Principal Kakab, can you please share for members who need additional time to go through the policy and read it, where there are opportunities for feedback can continue to happen outside of taking all documentations, honoring that many people want to take some time with this. Can you please share the process for that?
Absolutely. Through you, Chair, the public consultation will be available on our Peel Public website, and I'm happy to provide that link when it becomes available. for members of our community and our public to continue to offer in a time that doesn't limit their ability to contribute in the half hour that we'll spend on this document this evening.
Yeah, if you could send the link to each and every one of the representatives, and they can send it off to various people, and it'll give the representatives people a chance to provide input that we may not get to tonight.
Absolutely. And through you, Chair, the policy will become available within the next few days, so it will be going public. It's set to go, to my understanding, on March 1st, so I will only be able to provide that link when it actually becomes live.
I did have a question about one of the previous slides where you referred to neurodiversity. Oh, neurodivergent. Did you mean neurodivergent learners as opposed to, or do you mean all types of different brains?
It's meant to be.
Did you mean specifically neurodivergent, so ADHD, autistic?
We've meant to be inclusive of all.
Okay, great, thank you. Yeah, that clarifies something for me.
That does lead us to the first question through you, Chair. I'm going to bring back, is there any language in the assessment evaluation reporting policy that is unclear or that we wish to bring attention to? I'm going to take notes.
I just wanted to make it most people use neurodiversity as when they mean neurodivergent. Okay. Kevin, you have a comment?
I have a question.
And then we'll move to Ray.
Yes, and it was, what is the timeline on this? Because I mean, I know it's already been mentioned. I mean, I can't do it any justice by rushing through it tonight. So if if I know when we need to get feedback in by, that would be very helpful.
Absolutely. Through you, Chair. The public consultation is expected to go live on March 1st, and it will be available for the month of March. So you will have 4 weeks in the month of March to provide feedback via our website through the survey.
Okay, perfect. Thank you.
So my question to the members is, do you feel like you can provide feedback with regards to these individual questions tonight, or do you need to take it away and think about it and then provide feedback through the public portal? Anybody think it's gonna be back? Nicole? Yes, we need more time. More time? Yeah, I think the general feeling is more time. Yeah. Aaron?
You're asking if we rather do it tonight or take it away? I mean, I would certainly like to get away.
And so I think the general feeling is, yeah, well, we would love to provide you with feedback. This is a lot of pages. And the questions, are the questions in this little packet or?
So through your Chair, we're happy to take these questions. I can work with Principal Kakov and take these questions and provide them in an email to all SEAC members with a link and to our trustee members as well, with a link to the public portal so that they can provide feedback through that lens, knowing that it will take some time to go through and make sure we're providing really clear feedback for the students that we're here to serve tonight. Is that okay with you? Yes.
Through you, Chair, we have the questions and the format is already on the website. So it's all the materials are built into the website survey with the questions. So with the simple link access, which I'm happy to provide when it goes live, the materials, the policy is listed there as well as the questions with an opportunity to complete it electronically.
Excellent, excellent. That's
Absolutely.
yes, right.
A quick question. Is this a completely brand new policy or is it replacing older policies or combining things together? Or
through you, Chair. So we have a current policy, and so we go through a review cycle, and so we are reviewing our existing policy and we are updating it and making sure that it's aligned with our current values and goals of the system.
Okay, then if I may suggest through you, Chair, is that when you separate the questions or the previous policy, it would also be pointed out will be useful because I'm not sure everyone remembers the previous policy.
Through you, Chair, all of our policies are available on our public website. So if you just search PDSB and you search assessment and evaluation, that policy will come.
Okay, because I think what we are.
It's a great
looking
point. You
for
want to
is-
see the differences and the more focused alignment. Understood. Thanks, Rick.
Trustee Ellis, do you have a question or a comment?
Yes, thank you, Chair. I was just going to ask, I think staff pretty well answered it. I was going to ask if there, if we had delayed, if there was going to be any negative implication, but it sounds like we'll be able to communicate questions that we might have through the public portal. So yeah, I think I'm good. Thank you.
I love the fact that we're moving forward and assessing bias. My question is, how do people know that they have a bias when it's never been pointed out to them?
Thank you for the question, through you, Chair. This speaks to the larger work that we are doing as a board. And so over recent years, you would notice that we have paid particular attention in terms of how our administrators, how our teachers, how all of our instructional staff are being called and responsible in terms of how they instruct and how they teach and their pedagogical frame of how they engage our students. And so through that increased awareness, that increased accountability, and through the professional learning opportunities that we've brought to everybody's attention, this is how the awareness around bias has come to the fore. And so through professional learning, we are able to ensure that we are holding people accountable. So that way it's not only recognizing the bias, but making sure that they're mitigating against it when they're engaging our students.
And engaging other staff members.
And staff members and the community as a whole.
The community as
100%, yes.
That's amazing because I mean, there have been times where, I mean, this is like, I have a 28-year-old, I have a soon to be 30-year-old, and I still am discovering biases I've had. And it's simply because of my upbringing, right? What I was exposed to as a child, and yeah, so we learned it. We all have to remain open and willing to learn and willing to change and willing to accept our own biases and accept our own upbringing and what kind of messages that it's given us as throughout our lives.
Absolutely.
I may, through you, Chair, just address the last slide before we conclude. I just wanted to outline the next steps that we have with this policy. We will continue with the community consultations through the public site, as I indicated, throughout the month of March. We will review and revise the policy based on the feedback we received through the various platforms and the community groups and the public contributions. We'll finalize the policy for trustee approval in early spring and continue with the development of the operating procedures for approval from Directors Council following approval of policy. It's just an outline for the next steps as we work our way through the completion of the policy and the operating procedures. So thank you for your time today. Happy to take any additional questions.
And thank you for asking for our input. We appreciate that. We appreciate you being patient with us and letting us take this away and think about it and come back with a decent response.
Thank you.
And I hope my brain remembers. I'm telling myself that I don't remember. Tell me we're a divergent brain. I remember this, Shelley. Don't forget. And would you like to move the receipt of this? And Barb, would you like to second the receipt?
Sure.
Again, thank you very much for bringing this to us.
Right. Just on the line here, I had a question. Sorry.
Oh, did you have it? Yeah, I didn't see your, oh, sorry, Jennifer. I
That's
didn't
okay.
see your hand up. So go ahead.
I just wanted to confirm that the procedures will also come to SEAC for review.
Thank you for the question, through you, Chair. No, the operating procedures will not be coming to SEAC. The operating procedures will be, as was indicated, will be going to the Director's Office, Director's Council for.
So there's no input from SEAC typically on procedures, is that correct?
That is correct, yes. Our consultation process is for the policy, but we do not have consultation processes for our operating procedures.
Thank you. Again, thank you for that report. And we will try to get back to you with our input. Okay, we're gonna move on to 7.4, which is the Special Education Advisory Committee Terms of Reference. And it's for approval. It's for our new members. So, anything that needs to be talked about? Okay, so does anybody have any questions or comments with regards to this terms of reference document? No? Ray, would you like to move for receipt? Approval? Is it approval? Yes. Approval, move for approval. Nicole, would you like the second? Thank you. All in favor? Yes, we have. Anybody not in favor? No? Okay. Sure. All right. Indications for action received. We don't have any command specific. Yeah. No communication. I haven't received any questions, written questions from committee members. Reports from representatives on councils and associations. Does anybody have any kind of events coming up? Ray, whatever, come about your event.
Yeah, thank you. And through the chair, the update was actually circulated additionally to the members. I just want to highlight the Autism Month, the Celebrate the Spectrum Month that is being celebrated now for the month of April. That's coming up. So Autism Ontario is already working with school boards across the province to raise the awareness and celebrate the spectrum, so as to say. And there will be several initiatives which are all there in the document, and that is just something that we want to highlight, and all the associations and school boards to support.
Thank you. Any other? Oh, no. Okay. 12. We don't have any other motions for consideration. And we don't have any notices of motions and petitions, but we are going to go on to our motion action law 14.1.
Great, through you, Chair. As per the request of SEAC at the last, I've moved my answers to your questions from the oral report into the motion action log for documentation. Apparently, we have not sent this one out, so I will read through and we will send out the document tomorrow. From our January 2024 a meeting, we had a data requested by you, Chair, on voluntary and involuntary de-escalation rooms and pictures of the de-escalation rooms. We are going to defer that to March because we are still collecting data to make sure we have the right number of ALE rooms that are considered instructional, voluntary, involuntary, sensory, and we have many, many pictures for you as well. So we will defer that to March and share that with you. Provide the number of grade 8 students who took advantage of the Reach Ahead program. The answer is 0. When we talk to our team, we do not offer that as an option. There was a question around the total number of students on the blind low vision itinerant caseloads. We have 12 blind Braille users. Students who are deafblind, we are not going to report because, as we've shared with SEAC before, any number that is less than 10, we choose not to report to ensure the confidentiality of each student that we serve. Low vision 64 and cortical visual impairment 45. These numbers do not include the students that fall outside of the criteria of visual acuities being 20 to 70 or a diagnosis of CVI. These students receive one-time consultation from itinerants and they're redone each time they transition to a new school. Placement data by division, that is pending confirmed information, so we will defer that to March as well. Jennifer, your question around physical exceptionalities. In contained classes, some students have multiple exceptionalities, and physical is checked off as the main exceptionality. Some students in DD or developmentally or special needs classes and only have one and only have physical as an identification, despite psych assessment stating they have an intellectual disability. So we do have some students, about 25, who have dual exceptionalities. The number of secondary students who were in PLAR credits, the 2023-2024 is N credits is pending. We're still in the process of receiving applications, and we will bring those numbers back when we have submitted all the applications. And the other ones I answered at the last time. Happy to answer any questions or clarifications. And then I believe we need to move to receipt of those responses. I think there's a hand there. I don't know who it is.
Yes.
Oh, Jasmine. Yeah.
Yeah, my question was around, because I think I heard in the report that if they have one exceptionality, I forgot what the language was used, but if they have one that's more dominant, then that's the one that's reported. But say they have like an example like autism and then low vision, and they require support from both from a BLV and someone who can support their autism. How do you then record that in the funding and the staffing and in the requirements that you need to then support that child? Like if you're only recording it in that one exceptionality, which is dominant, but not the other.
So they would still receive the supports, but you're right, it is only documented in the dominant exceptionality. So we would have to have a discussion with family around what they believe is to be the dominant exceptionality, but it's only targeted in the one, but they would receive service under both. Does that answer your question?
Yeah, I guess I was just wondering, like, when it comes time to like budget and funding, and we hear these conversations about the budget that we got is less, or the funding that we got is less, or we don't have resources. I'm just thinking, like, if we're only reporting it in one, then how do you accurately capture that you also need, 2 hours a week for this type of support? Yeah, like how do you accurately get that from the ministry, and how do you accurately allocate that if it's not actually represented in the numbers? Like, I get you, it's only recorded in one, but I don't know, I personally feel it should be recorded in, I'm not the expert, but it would make sense to record it in both, because the student would then need support in both.
So through you, Chair, thank you for your feedback. I could take that back to get some clarification from the ministry around how the funding mechanism works for students with dual exceptionalities. And I'll turn it over to Associate Director Paul Silva.
Yeah, thank you. And through you, Chair. I think there's been a number of questions with respect to funding and how students are funded and so on. So I'm going to put a table perhaps that we bring back Tanya Alatache to come do a presentation for us yet again. I think there's always room for review of how that funding unfolds, and if in fact things have changed from year to year. So I'll just table that. Perhaps we could do that in March, Superintendent Scotto, and we'll take from there.
Thank you. Through you, Chair, that's documented, and we'll make sure that happens.
And that's a fabulous learning opportunity for our new members, and refresher for some of our older members. Jennifer, you had your hand up, and then we'll move on to Barb.
Sorry, I think it was answered through that discussion there. So I was under the impression that if it was someone was multiple, they were identified as a multiple exceptionality. But it sounds like in this report, there are no, I was trying to go back to the report and I couldn't find it just off the top of my head here. So in the ONSIS reporting, is there no exceptional category? Sorry, not exceptional, multiple exceptionalities.
I do believe multiple exceptionalities is specific combination of exceptionalities.
Oh.
Do I remember off the top of my head right now? No. But it is a specific grouping of exceptionalities that fits the definition of multiple exceptionalities, rather than just a child has two or more exceptionalities.
Through you, Chair, in the Special Education in Ontario document, 2017, it does say that the definition of a multiple exceptionality is a combination of learning or other disorders, impairments, or physical disabilities that is such a nature as to require for educational achievement the services are one or more teachers holding qualifications for special educations and the provision of support services appropriate for such disorders, impairments, and disabilities. So there is a multiple exceptionality as one of the Ministry of Education's categories for definitions of exceptionalities. But as I shared with you, it is usually captured through the most dominant exceptionality, but students are provided service in both.
Yeah, just thinking from a reporting purpose, I thought I understood that if there was only a physical disability, that was physical, and if you had any other, it would be multiple. So I guess I just misunderstood the categorization. So appreciate the clarification there.
Yeah, through you, physical disability has two quadrants. One is physical, a condition of such severe physical limitation or deficiency as to require special assistance in learning situations to provide the opportunity for educational achievement equivalent to that for students without exceptionalities. And then the second part of physical is blind low vision, a condition of partial or total impairment of sight or vision that even with correctional affects educational performance adversely. So there is one for significant physical disabilities, and that's why I think they have that term multiple. But as for the funding mechanism, we can have our corporate Tanya LTS charge come present, and I can also reach out to our ministry contacts to get some clarification and bring that back.
Yeah, and for me, the reporting as well is kind of critical for us to understand, because when I see something like that, when you say physical, is in classes that we wouldn't consider typically a strictly physical disability would have. So yeah, just understanding that a bit better would be good.
Thank you.
So regarding CLAR, it says 0 credits plus 8 credits, and it says 13, 11, 6 credits. So are these credits or students, or what are these numbers?
So it says the number of secondary students who earned CLAR credits. So it's the number of students. So, but some of the words have credits. I can clarify that with coordinating principal Jeff Bertrand.
Okay,
thanks.
And why does the Peel board not allow reach ahead? It's an option in, I believe, growing success.
Through you, Chair, I'll ask the superintendent to provide that.
Thank you. Through you, Chair. Can you please clarify the question in terms of not allowing region ahead? Can you have a specific example of in which you're not allowed?
Yeah, it's right in here.
We don't offer
We
it
just offer it
as an option.
You don't offer it as an option. Why not?
So through you, Chair, we have begun to offer options for reach ahead. We started pilot programs last summer as well as this summer in terms of students who are entering into grade 9 are able to take some courses. So we have started to pilot that to provide opportunities for our students.
Why is it only available in the summer?
For you, Chair, because this is a pilot that we are looking at within the current resources that we have and the opportunities that we're affording students in terms of specific courses. The ones that we are piloting are looking at being able to address particular needs that are best served at the summer at this time.
And how come it hasn't been available in the past?
Through you, Chair, I cannot speak to that. I can share that within my position now. This is something that we're exploring, and this is why we're bringing it forward, because we're seeing the viability of providing our students those options currently.
Okay, thank you.
Anybody else? Any questions? Mary, sorry, Mary.
Hi there, through you, Chair. Can you hear me?
Yes.
Okay, so I just have a couple of questions on the action motion log from January, or actually even December, I think it says. It mentioned something about the transition facilitator. I don't recall if we had an update on that position. It said interviews are scheduled for January 2024 with potential start date of February 2024. I don't know if we have an update, if we can get an update on that. As well, The other one is also the dates of the IPRC meetings for each exceptionality will be brought to the next meeting, is what it said from our December one. I don't believe we got updates on those two items. If someone could speak to those, that would be great.
Thank you, Mary, and through you, Chair. We did hand out the IPRC dates by exceptionality in our last meeting. So those were handed out in our last meeting. I'm happy to share those copies with you again if you need another copy. And the update on the transition facilitator, coordinating principals, Erla Jacket and George Sultanitis did conduct interviews and we offered a position. The offer was not accepted. And so in our restructuring of our department, we have gone back to providing service through an educator instead of a transition facilitator and are looking at partnerships right now that will allow for transition to work. So it's we've shifted our focus from transition to work and not having and looking at contracts outside and are just considering an RFP process, which is a request for procurement for those skills. And as shared, we've also been in contact with Project Search to look at our options for transitions to workplace again. So we are in the process of collecting that data.
So through you, Chair, as well. So the students that would be graduating this year, do they have someone to pick that up, or do they have no one at this point? Like how soon will someone be filling that space in order to assist students with the transition? Because of course, we know it takes more than a couple of months to successfully facilitate that transition. So those students are kind of in a precarious spot at this point.
And through you, Chair, yes, Mary, we would agree with that. And what we're doing is we're looking at supports through special education department heads, filling in that role with the support of our coordinators who are communicating in and filling in those roles in the interim.
Okay, thank you very much.
So I believe we need to move to to update the status, to receive the ones we've already, yes, received the updated status for all the ones that I shared. And then defer the ones that I'm bringing back.
So Mary, would you like to move for receipt of updated status of the deferral of?
Yes, I would.
Okay. Art, would you like to second that?
Sure.
All right. Sorry, I skipped past questions asked them by committee members. Did anybody have anything more that they need to talk about, ask a question about, or make a comment about before we move on to 15? Mary, you still have your hand up. Did you want to say something else?
Yes, I did. I thought we skipped past that and I missed it. So I was looking at previous, sorry, through you, Chair. I was looking at previous SEAC agendas, and I was noticing that the public question period seems to be missing. Is there a reason for that? Is it just because sometimes we do take questions, I guess people email questions in, but do we not have like the public in attendance that can ask questions anymore?
It's at 6. It's a delegation of public questions.
The last few agendas it was missing off of.
Are you sure?
Positive.
I remember the delegations being on there, and that's typically where public questions would also be. Do you remember that being on the other agendas? I don't have one in front of me, but I do remember that being there.
Okay, maybe I missed it. I thought it was at the end. All right, thank you.
Okay. Jennifer, you had your hand up.
Yes, just wondering if we could get an update on the discussions we had last meeting about the job uncertainties in the central board office. You had said that by the time this meeting happened, a lot of decisions would have been made. So could we get an update on that?
Thank you, and through you, Chair. Yes, I'm pleased to share that we brought back all of our vision and hard of hearing itinerants. We have brought back all of our special programs coordinators. We brought back 3 of our coordinators for special education and professional learning. We shifted from having ASD itinerant teachers to having ASD DD special programs resource teachers, because we wanted the resource teachers to have a more comprehensive role and not just supporting with caseloads and students, but really building and developing capacity across the system. Very much to the SEAC's point that we need to make sure that the teachers that are serving our most vulnerable students are equipped with the knowledge and pedagogy, assessment, accommodations, and accountability that's needed for success in our programs. So we have just recently last week gone through the process of hiring what we're calling special programs resource teachers, and have happily accepted many amazing candidates. And we have also finished and completed the hiring of our communication cluster teachers as well as of our communication resource teachers. So we had a combination of hiring when the role was shifted or changed, and also recalling members whose role did not change back to the department.
So can we have an idea of how many, like the delta, what the change was in these areas, or can we get a report after this or something? That was a lot of information, a lot of numbers for me to kind of understand. Like, can we get something similar to that we get for the classrooms and that kind of thing? Like what happened, what was the original and what are we looking at now?
Sure, through you, Chair, we're happy to share that at our next meeting, but I will say that the Director's Office was highly supportive of the Special Education and Social and Emotional Learning Department. So we continue to have a very comprehensive central support for our students.
Okay.
But I can bring specific numbers back to you, Jennifer. Thank you for the question.
That would be great. Thank you. And I'm not sure if these are part of the central office, but have the ATRT, has that group been changed?
Through you, Chair, I will ask Associate Director Paul De Silva, because the ATRTs no longer reside in the Special Education Department and land with innovation and research.
Okay.
Yes. Yeah, and thank you, Superintendent Scott, and through you, Chair. Jennifer, I don't have the total numbers, but there was some shifting and some amalgamation of roles and responsibilities in the Innovation and Research Department. And so there's been kind of a building out of that position to include a number of different things. So we would have had a presentation here at SEAC around MLRTs. I don't know if you remember that presentation from Bernadette Smith, who was here, and really looking at building out the use of EML. That's another term that we were using, empowering modern learners document, and leveraging CRP, UDL, all of those pieces. And so the ATR position, along with the MLRT position, have been are now a combined role sitting in the Innovation and Research Department, and we're hoping that that's more a holistic approach to the delivery model, so that pedagogy along with technology can be leveraged through those individuals for students. So the ATRT role, if you can think about it this way, ATRT plus MLRT, and I think the role, and I don't want to misquote, is the ed tech position, but I can't recall exactly the terminology that was used. But if you can envision those two roles combining together.
I almost think we need another sheet.
So do I, Kelly.
I apologize. Online here, you cut out after saying ATRT plus MRT plus.
No problem. Yeah, so what we'll do is potentially I'll table as well that there could be a potentially even in your oral report that you can access Superintendent Smith to kind of give us an overview of what the new role is called. But in essence, Jennifer, it's the MLRT role plus the ATRT role gets you something I believe that is called the Ed Tech RT or something like that, but I don't want to be misquoted in naming that new role, but it's a combination of those two positions.
Okay, thank you.
No problem.
And then Jazzy?
Yeah, I wasn't able to attend the last meeting, but I had a lot of parents reach out to me in the blind low vision community about the letters and then what it meant for their children. And I'm happy that they've been recalled for specifically blind low vision, you know, um, that which is my interest. But I guess I'm wondering, is this a normal practice? And will the parents have to, or the school, or these itinerants, are we going to be going through this process next year? Because I don't remember it being around. Like, I don't remember the communication of, you know, the letters and then recalling letters or any of this sort of thing. I don't remember it last year when I was first on the SEAC and OPVIC meetings. And so it, to me, it's felt like a new process. And so I was just hoping to get a little bit more information on, like, you know, why was it a practice this year? And is it going to be a practice again in the subsequent years?
Go ahead, trustee, or trustee.
No problem.
Associate Director.
Through you, Chair Jazzy. Yes, it's not a process that we've engaged in on a yearly basis. We do on a yearly basis provide letters to those folks who are on a term and that we are either extending their term or ending their term. But that is part of our staffing process that happens every January. This was an unusual process because we wanted to ensure that we reviewed the fiduciary responsibilities of the board around how are we managing moving forward. And so at this point, we wanted to be equitable, if you will, across all departments and reviewing all members, all staff centrally. To review their roles to see what we could be doing and what we could be doing better in terms of programming in a more stratified and aligned manner. So if I can't respond to the notion, are we going to be looking at things again? I will say that in these times of declining enrollment, they're tough times. And so we receive funding based on students in our schools, students in our classrooms. So I don't want to be sitting here today saying that we won't be engaging in the process. And then next year or come and next year we determine we're 2,000, 3,000, 10,000 students shy, which will obviously impact the funding that we received, not only to the board, but more specifically to our departments. So I'm hoping, Jazzy, that we don't have to engage in such a broad practice next year. But certainly what we will be doing, Peel, as we know it, in terms of one of the fastest growing locations, particularly as it pertains to the school sector, is no longer. People are moving out of the Peel region, Toronto and so on, and moving to London, Waterloo, all of those boards that are happy to receive our students because for a variety of reasons, whether families can work online, housing is cheaper, all of those pieces. So I'm hoping, Jaji, that we don't have to engage in a process. We understand what that's meant for our internal staff. It was a bit of a shakeup. And certainly that's not the intent. The intent is always to deliver a program that's exceptional for our students. But in this particular case, because of coming out of COVID, the board was provided with funds, even for COVID, that we were able to maintain and manage from the ministry, and that is not the case over the course of the last couple of years. So, hoping not to engage in that process, but it's always our responsibility to always look to see what our financial responsibilities are by department on a yearly basis.
Yeah, and I can appreciate that if like the enrollment is low, and then I get it, like, the shrinking need. But I don't know, I guess when I talk to other parents in Peel and I talk to schools, and you hear in the news and the media, and you hear and you just Google all these reports, a growing need for special education. It's wild to me that the need, I get that families relocate, but it's wild that the need has shrunk, and based on the need, the resources, it feels like, are shrinking. So I guess my question then is it that the need is shrinking, or that there's not enough disclosure on the school or parents' parts? Because I think, to be honest, part of it could be the disclosing piece, like the understanding of like how to disclose and what to say and who to go to. So I'm wondering, like, is there an opportunity, when kids are, and maybe there is, you already, Peel Board already does it. I don't mean you, sorry. I mean like Peel Board, but like, is there an opportunity where parents can regularly attest or disclose their child's exceptionalities, or does the school, ask the parent to update, or, if the school observes? Because again, like, it's wild to me that the need is shrinking, which this is what it sounds like when I'm reaching out and I'm hearing things, and it's like the caseload's at capacity, or the itinerants are at capacity, or there's a long waiting list, but on the flip side, it's like the need shrinking.
Through you, Chair, yes, parents have multiple opportunities to share, updates around student exceptionalities, whether they have them through planning for entry as they're registering as first-time Peel Board students, through our planning for entry mechanism, which really is a mechanism that is very comprehensive to allow families to share the exceptionalities and the level of need through independence that they require. For existing students, we have, as shared before, significantly modified the student review process. So parents are active and collaborative members at each student review. And that's a multidisciplinary team who sits around the table, including members of our professional support personnel. So social work, psychology, speech and language, along with the principal and itinerant teachers as required, where parents can continually update if there's a change in the student's status, or there's increasing needs, and then we make adjustments as necessary. So yeah, I think we provided some significant mechanisms for parents to make sure that they have an opportunity to share that. But we thank you for your feedback.
But Superintendent Succato, I think that happens if they've already disclosed, like this IPRC and all the school psychologists and all these meetings, that happens actively after the parent is disclosed. I think about my other two children, that doesn't happen because there's no need. But if there was, and I didn't have a son with a need, I wouldn't know how to go about openly, like, disclosing, like, is it an online portal? Is it like something that's digitized that I can go and disclose and say, hey, I think I need a review? I don't know. I just want to table that. I think that there's a gap there where we're saying that the need is shrinking and therefore the funding is less and people are relocating out. I also think that it's a disclosure problem. And then part two to that is how we're disclosing, because some of these children have multidisciplinary exceptionalities. So yeah, go on.
Yeah, so through you, Chair, classroom teachers are always the first source of contact and communication for families. So if families needed to come to a student review meeting, all they would really have to do is communicate that with the classroom teacher and say, we're having a concern, or we're seeing a concern. And it doesn't even require a parent to bring them. We have many, many teachers who will bring students to review because they have concerns about kind of access to learning or independent skills and things like that. So we do have multi kind of ways of making sure that, but to your point, Jazzy, we can look at how clearly we're communicating the openness and to families being able to share that and feeling comfort and security in sharing that information with us. But I'll take that back. Thank you.
Yeah, thank you for that. And sorry, I know Mary is waiting and everyone else has questions, but one more question. There was, I think in December, a conversation that your team was leading, like interrogative practices. I didn't see in the report this time any updates on the interrogative practices around vision.
Yes, through you. That was when we shared the 4 kind of areas of focus that we were working on. 1 being the communication clusters, 2 being the VOC1 review, 3 being the secondary communication and the jurisdictional review for the blind and low vision students. We continue that work actively and daily. I just recently have come back from a regional superintendent meeting where we collected a lot of data, and I can bring a status report orally to the next meeting.
Thanks.
All right.
And did you have a question? Barb? And then we'll move on to Kevin and then Mary.
Yes, there was a question asked last week that was missed. I asked about communication to parents and if SEAC could be included in communications that was sent out to parents. So like broadcast to all parents.
So do you mean the all family reports that are? I don't recall that question, so sorry if I missed it. It wasn't in the minutes either, so.
Yes, it is in the minutes.
Okay, I must have missed it.
Barb Seer inquired if SEAC can be included in communications to the parents regarding various programs. And you commented that you would consult with Catherine and provide a response.
Okay, so I must have missed that one. I apologize. I'll bring that back to the next one. Thank you.
Kevin, you're next.
Thanks, Shelley. Sort of two things. The first one was sort of to go back to Jazzy, but Jazzy's point. One of the things to remember is, this whole the process of disclosure and now IPRC, it is still somewhat stigmatized, and it's also intimidating for people. So we know that not all the students that need the support are getting it, or not that they're not getting it, but they're not officially in the system just because of the way the process is. And there's a lot of trust that needs to be built for parents to actually, and the students themselves, to actually disclose that, because they think they're going to be treated differently or looked down upon by being part of the system. And I think that has to change. But that's a big thing, right? That's a cultural issue, but it's something that we really do have to look at in the long term. The other piece was, and this is more for help for all of us, is first of all, Associate Director De Silva, was impressed. You rattled off half the alphabet without tripping over your words once. That was pretty good. But there's a lot of acronyms in there, and that we're not all familiar with. So for me, it's like, what is an MLRT? I don't know. Is there a way we can send something out so that we have all these acronyms and know what they are, just to make it easier for us, for some, especially those of us who are new, because I don't know.
Yeah, through you, Chair, we take that point, and thank you for raising that. We will work harder at making sure that we do not use acronyms. MLRT stands for Modern Learning Resource Teacher. ATRT stands for Assistive Technology Resource Teacher. So we will make sure through our presentations and conversations that we use the full language to make it accessible for everybody. And thank you for that reminder. I appreciate it very much.
Oh yeah, and I mean, it's the beauty about big employers, right? They all have their own acronyms, and there's tons of them, so it's not unusual, unfortunately.
Right. Mary, you had your hand up, but you've taken your hand down.
Yeah, sorry, through you, Chair. I was listening to all the conversation. I forget what my question was. So I'll have to bring it back at another time.
Okay.
Sorry about that.
Okay, so no other questions, no other hands up. Would you like to move for adjournment?
Oh, you're speaking to me?
Yes, I am.
Certainly would, yes.
And who would like to second? And I can second it. I want to thank everybody for your participation tonight and for listening to us, and thank you for the staff for providing us your report. And wow, I'm just so impressed by the questions and the participation from the members too. It's really good to see this back and forth and this interaction, and it really speaks to the relationships and the trust. Thank you very much for that.
Thank you. Good night, everyone.
Thanks, everyone.
Thank you, everyone. Have a good evening.
Bye-bye.